kind of quickly, I'm calling today What's Your Story? We talked about the session is, for the year has been being heard and listening. I threw in storytelling because you're going to hear two amazing storytellers in just a little bit. But I want you guys to just introduce yourself to your neighbor really quickly. Just go 2 or 3. And I'm just going to ask one of you to tell a story of yesterday. What happened to you yesterday? And you have 1 minute to tell that story. So take 30 seconds to introduce yourselves, and then 1 minute to tell the story of yesterday, whatever that means to you. Go. When I said the story of yesterday, who immediately had a story? Who had to think about it? Who was like, yesterday? Is it my story? Is it the politics? Is it the world? Is it my children, right? We tell our stories. We don't always know why. Sometimes they just come magically to us. Sometimes it's very intentional. And that's with your kids. And think about that in the morning when you are trying to touch base with your kids, right? How you doing? How's your day going? Great. How's your day going? Great. You good? You good? You good? You good? You good? And we're praying that everybody goes, yeah, I'm good. You wish that they would say, I'm not good, and that you had time to spend with them, right? But that's why your guys are so important. Because in every other subject area, they don't have that moment to talk about it unless it's a great teacher who does that. But your subject area is about their stories and stories that are related to their stories. So I want to just share a couple quick ideas. This is a quote from Brandon Sanders. The purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. Today is going to be a day of stuff when you're going to be like, I know that, or I agree with that. I want you to shut that voice off and hear everything fresh, right? You never look at the same play the same way twice. You experienced the play when you're 18, you experienced the play when you're 25, you experienced the same play when you're 40, and your perspective changed, the text didn't, even though you think it did. Does that make sense? So what we want to do is want you guys to be agents of change in your classrooms, not to feed the young people how to think, God forbid, but to have them think their own things and maybe disagree with you and take you on as long as they're respectful. We are really fortunate. I'd like to use the word blessed to have 2 incredible storytellers with us today. Everything that you do in theater is story. Hopefully, if you're bored, you'll read my little intro letter. But everything is story. Every subject area is story. I wish every teacher in the schools approached their subject area as story. What is science? The story of where we came from. What is math? The story of relationships in space, right? What is history? Everything that just happened up until this second ago. So with us today is John Scott Richardson. Get up for John Scott Richardson. I'm going to read, out of respect, I'm going to read John's bio, which is much shorter than it actually is, which is a beautiful thing. John is an Obie Award-winning American actor, a producer, a director, a cultural storyteller and presenter of the Tutelo Saponi, Nansemond, and Tuscarora, don't want to get that wrong, Tuscarora tribes. An enrolled member of the Haliwa Saponi Nation of North Carolina, he received his bachelor's in liberal arts degree from Atlantic Christian College. John began in theatrical arts by writing, directing youth advocacy plays while working at North Carolina's Commission of Indian Affairs. John has a strong passion for storytelling, sharing the narrative of Native people. He is a founding member of Images for Inclusion, a former theater program director and board member of Amarinda. He is a SAG film, television, and theater actor. John appeared in the award-winning film The Reunion, NYC, on Amazon Prime. You can see it there. The Heart Stays and The Politician, which is on Netflix. His most recent projects include Lumberland, Human, and Between Two Knees. Did anybody see that besides me? Incredible, right? Between Two Knees theater production. We need to get that brought back. Let's talk about that. That was amazing. He is a cultural educator, presenting and working with Lotus Music and Dance, Images for Inclusion, and 7 Directions Media. John's passion is working with the youth and offering education to increase visibility and equity. I was very fortunate to see John at the Native American Heritage Month celebration at Tweed a couple years ago, and I heard him perform and tell a story, and I went up to him and I said, we got to work together. And he presented, along with Sean Corbett Taylor, at our high school theater festival, if you were able to join us, and spoke really beautifully. It's actually online if you want to hear his message to our kids. So without further ado, everybody, John Scott Richardson.
Thank you, Peter. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Biwa, yanda wasteka mimaki. My name is John Scott Richardson. All of the long list, we're just gonna make it short, but I'm an enrolled member of the Halawasaponi tribe. Also have lineage in the Tuscarora Nation, which is up in the Haudenosaunee community, upstate Seneca area of New York. And yes, I don't get this too often. Usually it's kids I'm in front of, right? So this is great. We're all gonna have a great time. So we're gonna start, just gonna get you guys kind of doing a little something. One of the things when I think about and talk about storytelling, and of course the theme is, of course, we all are a story, not just living events, but your actual creation is the story. If you think about all of the things that conspired for you to be here and you to be here in this form, that's the story in itself. Not just the events you partake in every day, but just you are the story. And so I always like to start my young people off with that because we all come from different places and different backgrounds, right? And we all may walk, and I certainly talk a little differently. So if you all are kind of having a hard time understanding everything I'm saying, I'm from the South, mixed with a little bit of North, mixed with some Miami, okay? So, but I always like to tell the young people that, and I'm sharing that with you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remember how we are all connected, all right? So place your hand right here over your heart. Now, I don't think if anybody's in here, everybody's got one of these. You feel it, you hear it, right? That is your internal fire. That is your fire. You bring that with you every place you go. So we might forget because daily life takes you and do different things. But so let's demonstrate how that fire can live. So let's put your hands together and rub them real hard like that. What's happening? Friction, but it creates what? Heat, right? If you do this long enough, right, you will start to feel that fire, and you can hold your hands like that if you do it long enough. You can feel the heat that your center generated, right? That came from you, all right? Breathe out. Don't breathe on nobody, but just breathe out. We all create air. We all create air, right? And just put your arms straight up. We all take up space. We all take up space, right? And what do? We stand on our 2 feet on Mother Earth, on the ground, right? That is something that every single person that ever walks this planet does. So we're not different, right? We're not different. We all create heat, we all create air, we all take up space, and we all stand on Mother Earth, right? And we all have a heartbeat. So I like to just kind of real quickly start. That's one story. You're gonna get a lot of stories today. Oh, my friend the spider jumped in my drum. And my bat jumped in my drum. I'm just gonna kind of bring the energy together in the room because this is what I do typically all the time. This is a day we're going, the drum. And it is represented as our heartbeat. It is the heartbeat. It represents the heartbeat of people here on Turtle Island, right? So as long as this drum is playing and someone's singing these songs, and from my perspective, the culture continues on, right? And again, we all have that heartbeat. So these songs live in this drum. So I'm just gonna kind of wake us up this morning. You all are pretty much awake, we already realized that. But this is just a sunrise song, a Zuni sunrise song that was shared with me by a great mentor of mine named Kevin Tarrant. You all might have seen him at some point. He used to be the head of Silver Cloud Drum. That was a New York City drum. But he's no longer with us due to COVID. So I like to sing these songs when I come here because I like to honor him. This is just a quick version of the song. Asute se asani cause asute. Hey. Ooh. All right, so we all are here and yeah. So now I am going to share, we tell these stories, right? Because story, again, is our life. It is how we came into existence. Cycles happen, moon cycles happen, earthly human cycles happen, and here we are, right? So when we tell stories, these stories might be a couple hundred years old, but these stories, just as well as the songs, but the stories are relevant today because they are told for one, to help educate, right? But also to open the mind of possible discovery, right? Some stories may not ever have an ending. In our culture, stories don't necessarily, they are adapted or adaptable to different things, right? Because we experience different things when we go through different things. Like what I experienced 20 years ago, I might face the same situation, but mentally I will experience it differently because my vantage point has changed. This is the story I'm going to share with you guys today of how animals decided who was going to go south during the winter. All right? So this is a Tuscarora story from the Haudenosaunee people. Now, long ago, we all lived in great council, all the animals in great council, all the winged, the fish, and the four-legged, right? So they were starting to realize that this northern area was becoming very crowded. Food was going to be getting scarce. And the wintertime is coming. And we all know what happens in wintertime. Mother Earth goes to sleep, right? So things don't grow. They may grow now genetically, right? They might force it to grow. But they didn't grow. So how are we going to continue to live? So Great Eagle said, well, I'm the biggest of all the birds except my cousin the condor in the south. And I say all the four-leggeds are to go south during the winter. Well, when Great Eagle spoke in council, he upset the other big one, Big Bear, the four-legged, said, no, why should we go south? We should stay in the north because we can walk the earth and we can cultivate the earth while it's sleeping, right? And I can sleep and rest. Eagle says, no, I think we should have a decision. So they kept talking and talking, and days went by and days went by, and they would just continue to talk like, well, who's going to go? Who's going to make the decision? Now, this is where the great game of lacrosse comes from. Anybody know about the game lacrosse? Right? It is in traditional Haudenosaunee, Mohawk community calls it the Yaegwagon. That's the great game or the game that Creator gave us. So they started saying, well, what are we going to do? Started arguing, started fussing and fighting. And you was like, what are we going to do? So they decide, say, hey, let's play a game. Let's play a game and try to see who loses has to go south for the winter, right? So they started picking teams. Oh, Eagle said, oh, I want Falcon because he can float and hover, he can go fast. And Bear says, I want Deer because Deer can leap far and is very graceful. So they started picking teams and everybody, so all the teams were decided. And they get the tree. The hickory tree is what they use to make the lacrosse sticks. And they get the sinew from the animals to represent the four-legged and all the birds, the sinew. They make the net on the stick. And they say, okay, how are we going to do this? Well, everybody's playing. Rabbit is on four-legged team. And the Eagle's got Hummingbird and got everybody there, right? Then there's one little fella that didn't, where is that little fella? One little fella did not have a team. One little fella. And you could hear him, eep, 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 pick me. And we're like, well, who is that? All of a sudden, bat flies out. Ah. And if we know about four-legged animals, they have long teeth and they have fur, right? And usually they have some form of fingers and toes. But on the other hand, the birds, they have some kind of toe, talons, like, right? They don't have fur, they have feathers, and they don't have teeth. So the bat was like, I want to play, can I play? And he goes to Bear, Bear, can I play on your team? Look, I have fur like you do. Bear says, no, you're too small, and you have wings, so you have to go play with the birds. So he walks over, he talks to Eagle. Eagle, can I play with you? Because, flying upside down. The world looks different now. So Eagle, can I play with you on your team? I have wings like you do, and some kind of feet things, but Eagle says, no, you have fangs, and you have some kind of fur. You don't have any feathers. And those little scrawny things on the end of your wings, I don't know what those are. They like fingers or something. So you have to go and play with the bear. Oh, all right. So he goes back over to the bear. Oh, bear, Eagle won't let me play, and I can fly. Bear says, well, I don't know. Well, what we'll do, we're going to start this game because the season is getting cold. And this is around winter solstice when we have change of the season and the longest day of the year, right? 12 hours on one side, 12 hours on the other side, right? So 12 hours of darkness, 12 hours of light. So they decide they're going to play this game of or lacrosse during this time. So Bear says, okay, well, you look a little bit like maybe my, distant cousin because you're furry like me. But I don't know. You'll be in reserve. So they get in reserve. He's in reserve. He's like, yeah, he's excited. So they start playing the game. They're back and forth, going at it, back and forth. Eagle gets the ball, and he swoops in and scores a goal. And then Bear says, I don't know. I've got to find somebody on my team that can do that. So Otter goes in and swims through the water and scores a goal on the other side. And they're going back and forth, back and forth. I mean, the game is going on and starting to get dark. So Eagle pulls out a secret weapon. Eagle says, I know what we're going to do. I'm going to call on Brother Owl. And Owl can see in the night, and it can glide, and you can be real quiet. You don't even hear the owl. So he calls on Brother Owl. Woo, woo. That's his call to Brother Owl. And Brother Owl comes in, scores a goal for the birds. Oh, no, they're getting excited. Bear says, hold it. We got one. I got one. Mole, I'm going to call Mole. Brother Mole. Brother Mole buries through the dirt, can't see, and scores a goal. Then the game is tied. So then they have to make a decision. They say, what are we going to do? The game is tied. It's getting colder. It's dark. It is dark. And it's getting colder. Food is scarce. So put me in, Bear. I can do it. Put me in, Bear. I can do it. And it's pitch black dark. So Bear says, well, okay, I don't know. You don't fly so straight. You can't see. I don't know it's dark out. It's cold. I don't know what's going to happen. But okay. So they give the little ball to Brother Bat. And Brother Bat's fluttering around and doesn't look like it knows what it's doing. You're like, the bear's like, where you going? You're going this way. And he's like, oh. All of a sudden, Bat swoops down in the dark. Eagle is looking, can't see, trying to cut him off. But Bat is just moving gracefully through all of the animals, all of the four-legged animals. And then he swoops around, goes through all the winged animals. Everybody's after the Bat. And all of a sudden, Bat scores the goal. Game over. Woo! woo, yay for the bat. Everybody's like, yay, bat, oh my goodness. Bear's like, huh, I knew you could do it all along. That's right, yes, because he has fur like me. And eagle says, that's not fair. What? What do you mean it's not fair? Why would it not be fair? Bat's the champion. He won. He won the game. No, you cheated. We didn't cheat. Well, how could he fly at night? He don't see. Well, because he has sonar. So the bat uses his sonar, his I guess you call it undetectable eyes, to see his environment. So then all the birds had to pack up their little bags, including Crow, which y'all might have seen. But Crow didn't come out today. They had to pack all their bags up. So that is why the birds go south during the winter. And the other thing is that, and I share this with my young people all the time, the real challenge, and that's where the game of lacrosse comes from, which is called the little brother of war. The Cherokee people call it that. And also the Haudenosaunee people call it the great game or the great game of peace, right? Is because it was created to settle disagreements so that no one would lose life over disagreeing about something. The other part is, the other lesson that I tell my young people is that no matter how weird you look, or disfigured you might be, or unattractive you might be, of course I don't say all these words to the young people because I don't want to scare them, but how different you may feel even inside your own body, right? Creator has given you everything you need to be successful, like the bat. Yeah, giving you all you need. And that just gives me cold chills, right? Because our young people struggle with image, body, all this social media, all these things about feeling accepted, having their voice, and we can help them find their voice and let them know that every part, everybody, everyone can play a part in this whole chaotic thing that we deal with life. And so always remember the bat, right? Because it's got some kind of wings and it's got fangs, but it can't see. And it saved the day, right? So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed that.
Let's give it up for John Scott Richardson, everybody. Now, I have to give a caveat. Unfortunately, we can't have all of you say, now I'm going to switch sessions and go to his. So you attend the session that you registered for, but John is doing 2 workshops if you signed up for it, and we are video recording every session. So you are taking 2 sessions. There's 6 that you're going to miss, but you're not going to miss. As I told the room next door, I'm so proud. The website, iteachtheater.com, has been averaging about 1,500 hits a month. And that means that you guys and the guys next door and other people and anybody across the country, because it's open, I've promoted it that way, are going to the site, looking at videos, looking at lesson plans, and John's work later today will be on that site also. So just want to add one other thought, which is beautiful. As you were telling this story, he just told the story of migration. Yeah. Yeah. How cool to have that be the story for then kids to write their own true mythological whatever story of their family's migration, right? And we honor immigrants, right, rather than chase them. So thank you, guys. I'm going to bring in Mel in 1 second. Thank you. Thank you, John. My bad. Everybody, I want to introduce Mel Powers, our guest storyteller. I'll tell you a little bit about Mel. Mel is a storyteller, educator, and theater maker who believes the stories we tell about ourselves, our communities, our histories, shape our beliefs around possibility. She uses storytelling and theater to help people connect with the deep humanity that these forms offer, working with actors, non-actors, students, and CEOs alike. Mel teaches resilience at NYU and Topics in Anti-Oppressive Theater Practices at Yale University, exploring the intersections of identity, performance, and social change. A longtime teaching artist and performer with The Moth, she has led storytelling workshops everywhere from public schools to corporate spaces, including with the Obama Foundation Fellows, and has toured a personal story about her family's search for home during the COVID pandemic. Mel is the founder and creative director of the Make Good Project, a nonprofit that creates space for women of color to make art in environments rooted in creativity, community, and wellness. She holds an MFA in acting from NYU, and as I said in the other room, Mel made me say this, we met many years ago in graduate school. Well, I was in graduate school and she was an undergraduate at the University of Maryland. She wanted to make that point that I was in graduate school, she was an undergraduate. Yes, I am older, Mel. Everybody, Mel Powers.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm so happy to be here with you today. So Peter just read off a long list of things I do, but one of the things I've been doing a lot lately is I work as an executive presence and communication leadership coach. Sounds very fancy, right? And it's a little bit fancy. A few weeks ago, I was on a one-on-one coaching call with a woman who's an attorney at a very high-powered bank in New York City. And we were working on her communication skills. And I had logged on to Zoom, waiting for her. And then she logs on and immediately launches into a monologue. She says, I just want to cut to the chase. I've gotten a lot of feedback that I come off as cold, and I want you to give me 3 to 5 bullet points of what I can do to be warmer. So I was like, and then she sort of caught herself, and she said, oh, that's it, isn't it? I was like, yeah, that's it, right? But I was really proud of her because we'd been working a little bit before that, and I was proud that she actually caught herself, right? She had begun the practice of listening, which is not something that she had been adept at before. And so I've been thinking a lot about what it means to listen and how we show up and the sort of stories that we tell around that. When I was preparing to come here today, I actually watched the session that you did in January, and you had said something. You had asked the audience to consider what it means to hear, to be thinking, considering, contemplating, listening. What it means to hear, to be thinking, considering, contemplating, listening. Do you remember saying that? I do. Oh, you do? Got it, right? Because you were listening to yourself, right? But I think about those elements a lot lately, just as a human in the world right now, also as a teacher, also as a storyteller. How am I listening? So today is about storytelling. And so my first question is, who here is a storyteller? Yeah. Oh, that's great. I've got almost everyone in the room raising their hands.
Can everybody turn off your phones, please? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Some of us in the room, though, did not raise our hands, which is very interesting. So for those of us who consider ourselves storytellers, where are you telling stories? Where is that happening? And this is interactive. Where are we telling stories?
In the classroom.
In the classroom. And what kinds of stories?
Either books that I have that I act out.
Yeah.
Or just like teaching as sort of interactive storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they are engaged.
Yeah.
And then so it's always but I grew up but that's always been a part of my acting was also storytelling.
Acting is storytelling, right? Curricular storytelling. I heard someone here say...
I said everywhere.
Everywhere, right? Yeah. Everywhere. Story, life is story. Everything we do is story.
I have an inner narrative where I am always the hero.
Yes. Okay, so yes. So to that matter, when I was in college, when I was an undergrad and Peter was a grad student, thank you, we did a production of Hamlet on the main stage, and it was my first main stage show. I was very excited. I got cast as the messenger in Hamlet. The messenger is the person who runs on and says something like, Laertes is storming the castle, Laertes shall be king. And that's what I sounded like when I did it. And I was so excited. I was so nervous. I also thought I should have had a bigger part, but that's something for later. And I remember the director, Dr. O'Leary, coming to me and saying, "What is your character's name?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. It just says messenger in the script." And he said, "No, you should know your character's name. You need to figure it out. Your character, as far as they are concerned, are not in a play called Hamlet. They're in a life story called Doug," or whatever his name is, right? This is a story about Doug. And that, in that moment, it kind of blew my mind in general, because I had never really thought about the interconnectedness of story, and how you said, right, that we are all the main characters in our own stories, but we can be really impactful supporting characters in everyone else's stories. And I just think that's something really beautiful to think about, particularly as educators and as teachers. So what stories are you a part of? What stories are you all a part of? Yeah. The student stories, right? When they come home from school and they talk to their parents and they're like, "Mr. So-and-so did this," right? Or, "Oh, this is a way that I was listened to today." It's really important. I had a teacher in my high school named Mr. Campbell. I remember him to this day. He was amazing. He was the sociology teacher. I had a really hard time in high school. My parents worked a lot, so they were not around, and my mother suffered from depression. So when she was around, she was often in bed. She was depressed. And so I spent a lot of time caring for my younger siblings. And it wasn't the worst childhood in the world, but it was very lonely and it was depressing. And so I started to sink into a kind of depression. But Mr. Campbell saw me. And this is how old I actually am. I am so old that if I saw a flyer on the wall at school, I had to write down the information and then go home and call somebody. There was no like Snapchat, right? And so I saw a flyer about a county cable television show that was going to be staffed by students, and they needed reporters. And I was so excited. I really wanted to do it, and so scared because I wanted to invisibilize myself, right? But Mr. Campbell saw that little glimmer in me, and he allowed me to interview him for this tape, because that's how old I am, for the tape to send in. And so I got to sit down and interview him and listen to his story, and it was amazing. So he was a black man, and he was openly gay, which I cannot tell you in 1980s suburban Maryland how rare that was. And so for him to show up so completely and openly was so impactful. He had a son who went to our school from a previous marriage. He had been married before. And when he got out of college, he had gone to teach in the Caribbean for a couple of years before moving to Maryland to teach. And it was so impactful for me because it opened up a world of possibility. I never could have imagined a story like that, but there was a person sitting right in front of me who had lived this beautiful experience and invited me in. So I did get on this TV show, which was great. And I always took with me, though, his belief that I had something to share. A few years later, Mr. Campbell was in the Washington Post because he had passed away from AIDS. And it was also a testament to how much his open sharing of his story taught us something else about the world. Our community really came together to support him, and it was because he was so open with who he was. And I take all of those lessons with me into all of the teaching that I do going forward now. I teach a class called Resilience at NYU, as Peter said, to freshman theater majors. Freshman theater majors. And on the first day of the first class, I asked these people who are going to a school that's about $80,000 a year to complete this sentence stem. I am an artist because. Do you know how many of them cannot do it? Right? And when I dig a little deeper, I ask, why can't you finish this sentence? And they say, well, I don't know that I have the right to call myself an artist. You don't have the right? What is the story that you are telling yourself about how you get to show up in the world? And so we spend the year and a half, the 2 years that I have with them, really excavating their stories and who they are as people and what they are bringing to the work that they do. And they walk out of my classroom and they know that. What they actually know is that they don't have to answer that question definitively right now, but they do need to have an answer and a point of view on the world, right? And that's part of what we do as teachers that we bring into the classroom when we bring ourselves. One of the last things that I want to say is on Tuesday of this week, in my executive coaching role, I taught storytelling for a company, a consulting company. And the theme of the session for the week was leadership in the age of AI. Yeah, I got a groan in the other room too, right? Why are we groaning? Why are we groaning? What's coming up around this? What do we think?
It's so taboo to talk about AI.
AI, it's taboo. Yeah.
I think it's the anxiety and fear that it's going to take over our jobs
Mm.
to the point
Yeah.
of chaos.
Yeah.
I would say who knows anything about leadership and AI since we don't know that much about AI.
Yeah.
So, I think we have to first acknowledge what we don't know.
Yeah. We don't know a lot about AI, yet we're still called to be leaders, right? And so this session was around how do I, as a leader, still show up and lead people when we're increasingly entering a world that for productivity may not value human connection. But what we're saying is that actually we still do, and we want to figure out how to put our stake in the ground in that, right? And so it was a lot about storytelling and getting these leaders to say what is actually valuable is all the things you guys are already doing right now. How do I tell stories to inspire my team that are human, that have emotion, that are full of real connectivity? All of the things that you are already teaching your students now, but it's so interesting to sort of get a bird's eye view and to understand that while we know that those are valuable skills, they may be even more valuable in the future because the people who actually know how to talk to people may be the people who actually are going to lead this next generation, right? And so to say that is to say that all of the work that you already know is so impactful is going to resonate for generations to come. I still carry everything I learned from Mr. Campbell with me, right? This listening, this considering, that this is the work of theater, but it's the work of storytelling and just showing up as who we are. So I think you're going to go into the day-to-day, you're going to get the opportunity to really think about how am I bringing that connection, not only to this room and to each other, but to our students, and to really mine that in them. So I'm really excited. I'm going to stay for the rest of the day. And so I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you.
No powers, everybody. That's great. That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. And one of the beautiful things about storytelling is that we all know and honor Mr. Campbell now. And each of you, I bet, has a Mr. Campbell somewhere in your journey, right? I have a Mr. Nance, who was a black visual arts teacher in my high school. And I wanted to start the Ultimate Frisbee team. This is back in the 80s. Nobody was playing it. And all the faculty were like, we're not doing that. And he's like, I don't know how to play, but I'll do it. I used to run track. And he ended up becoming one of my mentors. We also sadly lost him to AIDS. But just think about the people that just were triggered by Mel's story, in your story, right? So Mel is a character, a supporting character in all of your journeys today, as is John. And that's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool stuff.